going to get started. First of all, my name is Roman Aguilar. I'm one of the directors on San Diego State's college radio station for KCR. And to get started, how does it feel? Different Talking's been out for a couple months now. What's it been like to kind of let it be released and get the reception from it that you have been?
It's been really cool. You know, it was hard the first couple of months to kind of tell how people were responding. But just being on tour for the last week, it's really nice to see sort of what songs people are shouting out and people knowing some of the words to the new record feels good. That people are listening to it, and I'm really excited about having it out and getting to play the songs.
And a lot of the time, I think with your music and the band in general gets kind of thrown into a lot of DIY bedroom pop kind of bands and a lot of genres. I think a lot of people can still, especially in a digital world, Spotify, they can still group a lot of that music into being kind of almost timeless, where people think someone like you is 20 years old and kind of just stays like that, same age.
Totally.
Do you feel like you can kind of balance that image that music like yours has with who you are now?
That's interesting. I mean, I guess I do think doing what we do is you do kind of get stuck in the life of a 20-year-old. I think touring and being a musician can feel like a real young person's kind of work, but I do feel like what I've experienced with this record is a lot of people that listen to Frankie Cosmos are my age, and they feel like they're growing up with me, and I think that's been something that's really nice to hear. Is sort of it's the music is there for you whenever you're ready to find it, and you can grow up and kind of it can hit you in different ways, or you can find ways into the different records, as I grow up too. So.
And on that case, a little bit about the album cover too. What was kind of the inspiration behind the album cover as well? Was that kind of a play on still being to have a little bit of childlike whimsy to you and to the music as well?
Yeah, there was I definitely felt a playful kind of childlike energy around making this record, and I think we all felt a little refreshed and sort of naive making a record in a new way, or at least I did, and and then the title came from something that my 3-year-old godson said, so I sort of wanted to bring in this childish energy, and I thought that kind of self-serious 4-year-old picture of me just kind of captured it nicely, and everybody liked it. So.
And then in terms of your writing process now, I know you've said before that aging changes maybe how you write. Do you look at your writing process any differently than you would have maybe 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago? You try to make it original, opposed to kind of album by album process?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think songwriting is just something that's part of my life and my rituals and stuff that I'm always doing, and just like life, I kind of get a little better at it every year, because it's I'm just figuring out how to live and how to take care of myself, and how to express myself, and I'm sort of chipping away at this sort of deeper understanding of myself that I think songwriting gives me. So I do think it's just something that it changes, it ebbs and flows, and it changes the way that life does for anybody.
And kind of going off of that, I mean, how do you, in 6 studio albums down now, how do you measure yourself as far as success goes for an artist compared to when you go through Bandcamp or SoundCloud and those kind of platforms and just kind of bury a bunch of tracks together and hope something sticks out?
Totally. I mean, it's kind of the process that we go through now is something that I never would have imagined, when I was making those Bandcamp songs and demos, and I think recording in the studio is still, like you said, it's I've only really done it those 6 times, and then some, but it's something that you don't spend as much time doing when you're a working musician, learning to record in a studio. It is just this kind of, I get a little better at it every time. I understand a little bit more about the technology and like terminology and stuff of recording, but it's something that I'm still learning and I think having that history that I have of like self-recording on my laptop definitely, still is affecting sort of my processes with recording in general. And yeah, I think as far as success, like I never would have imagined the level of success that we've achieved, and I can only live in the moment and just feel like lucky to be on tour and to get to play the songs, and hopefully people keep liking it.
Going a bit more into the album itself, I want to pick out a couple of the tracks. I thought Against the Grain and Bitch Heart in particular touch on missing like your past self and still being able to find like peace and solitude. How do you be able to navigate that balance between nostalgia and also like growth when you're writing?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess like in terms of the musical sort of nostalgia and the sonic stuff that we're playing with, it's like definitely something that I attribute to my bandmates' contributions to, and I think I write stuff that's can be kind of vague or esoteric, and they kind of like help me build like a world around it a lot of the time. So it's like a very I feel like those are some songs where the musical elements of the songs really like ground the feeling of it for me, and so it just and both of them also came from messing around a lot and just having a playful kind of mentality about music making, which I think we all really appreciate in each other.
And I'm a little curious too, like as far as like the music and kind of where you came in the music scene. If you were starting from scratch, say now, as a group and as an artist, do you think the DIY approach that you kind of came into would still work in that case, and what that would look like?
I think it's definitely really different now. I think DIY, in terms of like an in-person community, is probably just like not the way in for a lot of artists now. I think there's a lot more internet stuff and TikTok and all these other ways that people find each other, but I also think musicians continue to find ways to like connect with each other and hopefully not completely like isolate ourselves, and I'd like to think that there will always be some some space for DIY exploration and supporting each other as ultimately like we're all small artists that are just working towards trying to like put on a nice show or put on or make a nice record, and that's what we're always just trying to do. And so it is we are still doing the same thing, but I do think I got very lucky in terms of the time that I was doing it. I think it's probably a lot harder now to like reach through the void and get discovered.
Yeah, I think for me, like especially with your music, I found your music through like Close It Quietly when that came out, and that was like especially during like a bigger period where that term of bedroom pop was like passed around on a regular basis, and like it's very much like curated playlists and just kind of like single tracks from like a bigger album would just kind of like be what you got hooked on.
Yeah.
And kind of going back a little bit, you were writing and playing shows around the time when you went to NYU and representing San Diego State here. What was your kind of come up in that and playing in college, and what were some of the music scene at that point, and where was a point where you thought you could make something out of nothing in that scene?
Totally. I mean, I think at the time that I was in college, I was not very involved in sort of my college like culture, and I kind of I was from New York, and so I already had like my scene of people that I grew up with, and I remember feeling actually like pretty uncool in terms of like my college community. Like they never saw me around at their sort of college like parties because I was like out doing something totally different at these DIY shows, and it was sort of like I was doing this kind of like Hannah Montana, like double life, student by day, like nerdy student, and then secretly a rock star, and by rock star, obviously like the most minimal sort of, playing to 20 people that are singing along, which feels amazing. So I did feel very lucky, like, because I grew up, because as a teenager I had sort of this community of music that I was able to find myself in, which I took with me into adulthood, and just the skill of being part of that kind of a community. Like, it is a labor that everybody is contributing to putting on shows. So I think, playing shows at houses and playing shows in illegal warehouses and stuff, it was like, I think there's just so many people that are working on making that stuff happen, and when it does happen, it's like at the hands of the whole community, I think. So, and yeah, I think a college is a really great way, especially if you're not in the city that you're from, to sort of, there is a built-in community in colleges too, and that's why college radio is so amazing, and, colleges that put on shows and have, a theater or something that they can bring bands to, and I think it's a great way to find your like-minded people.
And when you play cities like San Diego, and when you're going on tour now, is there some kind of now like great success and be able to like finally put this music out on the road and kind of have people react to it and take it in?
Yeah, it feels amazing. It feels really it feels like putting the album out becomes real once you take it on the road. For me, like, at this point, I think it's always a little like, where does the song go once you like put it out? But it's cool to like be making it continually in the room and getting to watch people react to it and sing along, and that feels really good.
Do you feel like the future of Frankie Cosmos as a group is brighter than it was when it started, heading into like a bigger period now?
I think I try not to trip out too much about the future. I think it's hard to know. Every album I always think like, this could be the last album, this could be the last tour. You just never know. But I feel excited about like where I'm at right now, and getting to be working on the stuff we're working on feels really fulfilling right now, and I'm just happy to be doing it.
Perfect. And then just kind of close on this. If a 19-year-old in their dorm discovers Frankie Cosmos today, what do you hope they take away from your music now?
Ooh, I hope that they, I hope it makes them want to sing a song or start a band or write a poem or make a painting and just like express themselves and do something away from their computer.
That's a good way to put it, for sure. Perfect.